Former President Jimmy Carter's state funeral in Washington, D.C. today. Of course, big pomp and circumstance at the funeral, but behind the scenes, what we noticed, the body language of the former presidents. President-elect Trump also there. Who shook his hand, who did not? Former President Obama sat next to him, even chatting, laughing at times. His wife, Michelle Obama, not there. Karen Pence, wife of Mike Pence, the former vice president to Trump, refused to shake Trump's hand or even acknowledge his presence. Let's talk about some of the highlights from the funeral. I'm Mary Ann Ahern. This is The Brief. What so many of us noticed who were watching this funeral begin, the former presidents arriving, where they sat, and the body language. Former President Obama seated next to President-elect Donald Trump and his wife Melania. Others got up to greet the President-elect Trump, including Mike Pence, who has not been with him in the same room since they left their term 4 years ago. Who did not get up to shake his hand? Pence's wife ignored him. Vice President Harris and her husband, they did not greet the Trumps, neither did George Bush or his wife Laura. Who was not there? Michelle Obama. According to Politico, she is in Hawaii and had a scheduling conflict. But it's quite obvious she's not there. All the other former living presidents are there with their spouses. The Carter funeral, the details for something like this. Of course, Jimmy Carter died at 100 years old. So much of this has been planned for a long time. And one of the people who has been involved in the planning is a Chicagoan.
There was a point at which Jimmy Carter became much more than a president or a former president. He became family.
Rick Jaskowka was an advance man for Carter when he was in the White House and post-White House. That's when I interviewed Jimmy Carter when I was a reporter in Atlanta some 40 years ago. Yeah, 40 years ago. Oh my goodness. But yes, Rick Jaskowka made those arrangements, brought me to the Carter Center, and we sat down with the former president and his wife Rosalind. They were a twosome that always were together when they did interviews. They wrote books together. That's what I recall about that interview, of them just being together, talking about what they did post-White House.
I think the number one thing to know about them is how committed both Jimmy and Rosalind Carter were to improving the well-being of people who didn't have all the advantages in life around the world.
And I think that's what a lot of people remember about Jimmy Carter. Not so much what happened in the White House. Yes, there were ups and downs, but it is his post-White House career that so many remember. What he did for Habitat for Humanity, what he did for the disease ringworm, what he did in countries like the Sudan and Nigeria, what he did to remind people of just drinking water and the importance of drinking water in villages that did not have that available. So of course at the funeral today, there was a lot of eulogizing about Carter's life at the White House and also what he did as a father, as a grandfather, as a humanitarian.
Jimmy Carter's friendship taught me, and through his life taught me, the strength of character is more than title or the power we hold.
Whether we focus on the chit-chat that went on between the President-elect Trump and Obama as they sat there at the funeral, and at times laughing, that's what people do before a service begins, but still people are focused and want to know, what did they talk about? I think what Jimmy Carter will be remembered for is a difficult presidency, the Iran hostages that were not brought home during his presidency, but after he left the White House. In fact, that day after he left the White House. And they will remember him as a decent human who wanted to do good for others. So what stuck out to you? What did you notice about the funeral? Leave us a note in the comments. This is The Brief. Thanks for checking in.